you.
So much. Mr. Jonathan Ryan from Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by thanking the members of Congress and our policymakers nationally for coming together during this time of great uncertainty. The Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, or RAICES, has been serving vulnerable populations of refugees and victims of torture since 1986. It is during these times of perceived crisis that we get to experience firsthand what our community and our country is all about, and also what it represents to people around the world who long for the freedom and liberty that we routinely take for granted. I am honored to have been given the time to share with you what we have learned in Texas over the past few months. Our mission is to protect refugees, and in furtherance of that mission, we assist unaccompanied children to navigate our nation's immigration court system to better understand their rights and responsibilities in that process. Since June 9, 2014, we have been providing Know Your Rights presentations and confidential legal screenings to nearly 1,200 unaccompanied children currently in HHS custody at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. We have carefully peer-reviewed the intakes of 925 children so far, and our assessment is that 63% of these 925 children are likely to be found eligible for relief by a U.S. immigration judge. In RAICES' many years of experiences, the cases that our staff and volunteer pro bono representatives have accepted for representation using this screening process ultimately have a success rate of over 98% in proceedings before immigration judges. Thus, RAICES legal determinations are supported by hundreds of favorable adjudications on behalf of our unaccompanied children clients. The children we serve at Lackland are fleeing unspeakable violence. The vast majority are from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Our interviews confirm that many of these children are victims of sexual assault, trafficking, domestic abuse, gang intimidation, persecution, and torture. RAICES staff and volunteers have met with girls as young as 12 years old who fled criminal gangs attempting to force them into sexual exploitation. The phenomenon occurring in these countries can be described as a war on children, where local gangs target boys and girls as young as 8 or 9 to transport drugs, coerce them to join through death threats, and force them into participating in the new normalized criminal activity that is rampant and widespread. The children and their families who have faced such violence and difficult conditions have made a conscious decision to seek refuge in the United States because they fear their very lives are at stake. At this moment in my testimony, I would like to share with you the experience that was shared with me of a young boy whom I met at Lackland Air Force Base just a few weeks ago. To protect his identity, I will not use his name. We will call him Refugio. Refugio left Honduras 4 months ago with his sister. 5 years ago, their father was murdered. Following the murder of their father, their mother remarried with a man who was himself involved with the criminal violence that has taken over Honduras. From a young age, this new stepfather began to recruit and prepare this young boy to become part of the criminal network that he served. Early on in their time together, because this young boy failed to follow the instructions of his stepfather, he beat him so badly that he broke his arm. It's crooked. He had pretty much resigned himself to the fact that he was going to be part of this criminal network because he could no longer do any other work with his crooked arm. As he grew older and as his young sister, Esperanza, grew older, she too began to be recruited. In fact, not to be a part of the network, but to be one of its subjects, to be exploited sexually by the criminal network. This was when the boy could take no more. Without telling his mother or his stepfather, they left their home. They joined another group of children who were traveling alone on top of a train that they call the Beast, because children are mangled as they fall off and are struck by objects that hit them when they're sleeping at night. They had to pay, as a group of children, they had to collect their resources and pay bribes to Mexican policemen all along the way to be allowed to go further. On one such occasion, the group of children did not have enough money, and so the policemen turned them over to the Zetas. The Zetas began to extort money from their families in order to allow the children to move forward. Well, Refugio and Esperanza did not have that family, and so the Zetas took Esperanza. They let Refugio go. He spent 8 days in the hieleras. We've heard children reporting as many as 12. Before he got to an HHS facility where he was able to begin the process of speaking to someone about the experiences that he had suffered. He's there at Lackland today, and he waits every day thinking that his sister is going to show up. We unfortunately know that she won't. How we respond to the current regional humanitarian crisis in which children are fleeing in every direction and in need of protection speaks to the moral character of our nation. The decisions that we make now have the potential to bolster our human rights record, or they may in fact undermine our ability to hold other international actors accountable in the future for their treatment of vulnerable populations. RAICES has been providing legal services to unaccompanied children for more than 2 decades, and I could not be more proud of the difficult and often thankless work that my staff has performed over the course of this summer. We know firsthand that affording these children proper screening for trafficking and persecution, as well as the opportunity to be represented by counsel and receive fair and full consideration before an immigration judge, could well be the difference between life and death. We urge you to prioritize the protection of these children and ensure that they receive due process. Thank you.